Good morning, everyone. It is good to be together. For those of you that I don't know, my name is Jeanne Stevens, and I have the privilege of being one of the founding lead pastors here at Soul City Church. And we are in our second week of a series called The Ick. We are looking at how to move from messy to meaningful relationships. And specifically today, we're going to be looking at how to do that in romantic relationships. And I don't think anyone has ever started a relationship hoping that it will be messy, right? I mean, no one goes looking for someone who will give them the ick. I know that there are a whole lot of wild things that people put on their dating profiles, but I don't think anyone has ever said, like, I'm looking for someone to trigger all my deep-seated insecurities. Like, people don't say that, right? Really interested in someone with all kinds of past relationship trauma. Nobody puts that out there. If you're a walking red flag, hit me up, right? Like, that's not on the dating profiles. No one goes looking for this kind of relationship. But the reality is that everyone brings two things. We bring two things into our relationships. We all bring blessings, and we all bring some baggage. Now, I know some of you are like, oh, not me, Pastor Jeanne. Not me. I'm just a blessing kind of person. I just bring the blessing on top of the blessing on top of the blessing. And I'm here to tell you, you've got some baggage. You got some baggage, right? We are all a multi-dimensional combination of beautiful and broken moments throughout our life story. And those moments, they turn into blessings and they turn into baggage. And we carry those around with us, and we bring them into all of our relationships. And blessings are those things, right, that are in the relationship, and they make the relationship feel light and fun and energizing and hopeful. And we love blessings in relationships, right? And baggage is the opposite, right? It's those things that make the relationship feel heavy and frustrating and difficult and even challenging at times. And here's the thing. What I have noticed is that we all just want this, right? We all want this. We want the blessings. There has never been a relationship, though, that didn't have both. There has never been a relationship that didn't have both blessings and baggage, because every human has both in their life. And the question that I want us to look at and I want us to wrestle with today is, what do you do when your relationships have more baggage than blessings? I mean, really, what do you do when your relationships, specifically your romantic relationships, they feel like you're constantly just unpacking baggage or having to carry around someone else's baggage? And you just keep hitting walls. And there's patterns that aren't shifting. And there's unresolved anger, and it just keeps getting in the way. And it feels like the relationship is more messy than meaningful. And if you're being honest, you're wondering, like, I don't know. I mean, is this worth it anymore? I mean, this is hard. This is challenging. Now, thankfully, the Bible has some really clear and direct teaching for what to do when there is more baggage than blessings in our lives and in our relationships. And that's what we're going to look at today, and hopefully actually receive some hope from Jesus that we can work through the baggage in our lives, and by the grace of God, they can actually become blessings. And so here's what I want you to do. There is a Bible in the seat back in front of you. If you're worshiping with us online, you can turn to 1 Corinthians 13. If you're looking in the Soul City Bible, it is found on page 932. 932. 1 Corinthians 13. And I imagine most of us have probably been at a wedding where maybe this passage was actually read. Maybe if you're married here today, maybe you even had this read at your wedding. But what's interesting about this passage is that Paul, who actually wrote this letter, he wrote it to the Corinthian church. And he didn't write this specific portion of the letter thinking one day hundreds of thousands of people are going to read this at their wedding, right? He didn't write it with that intention. He wrote it actually because the people in Corinth, they were struggling in their relationships. They were actually struggling with how they were communicating with one another. There was all kinds of underground issues. Essentially, there was a whole lot of baggage, and it was showing up in their relationships. And so Paul actually wrote them this letter, and he tried to give them a picture of, listen, here's what a healthy relationship rooted in Jesus, this is what it looks like. So he gets really specific in defining love for the Corinthians, and this is what it says in 1 Corinthians 13. It says this: love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy, does not boast. It is not proud, it doesn't dishonor others. It's not self-seeking, it's not easily angered. Keeps no record of wrongs, and love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. Love never fails. Now, doesn't that kind of love in a relationship sound amazing? Right? I mean, who wouldn't want a relationship that has that as the foundation? I mean, that kind of love, it feels like this all the time, right? It just feels like this. It feels good. It feels encouraging. But, in order for us to have that kind of love in our relationships, we have to become those kinds of people. So let's just do a little show of hands here today. I'm curious, how many of you would say that you're a patient person? You see yourself and you're a patient. Look around. These are the patient people among us. Yep, patient. Not too many here today at church. Now, those of you with your hands up, how many of you are patient 100% of the time? 100% of the time. Yep, not a one. Not a one among us. Okay, great. Next one. How many of you would say that you're a kind person? You're kind. Yep, a lot more. We're at church. Yep, a lot of kind Christians here today. A lot of kind Christians. Yep, and how many of you would say 100% of the time you are kind? At all times, you are flowing with kindness. Yep, that's right. Now, next one. How many of you would say, never in your life have you failed? Not once. Exactly, right? No one. No one is all these things at all times. I mean, listen, the reality is sometimes I'm not patient because I'm annoyed. Sometimes I'm not kind because I'm judgmental. Sometimes when I see someone vacationing on a beach in February and I'm stuck in Chicago, I envy. And the reality is we bring blessings and we bring baggage into our relationships. We are all a complex combination of both. And what this passage helps us see is that when baggage shows up in our relationship, it keeps us from this kind of real and authentic love that is described in 1 Corinthians 13. And as much as no one goes looking for a relationship with lots of this, with lots of baggage, all relationships, they end up going through stages where we have to eventually come face to face with the baggage that may be showing up in our lives and in our relationships so that we can actually experience that kind of love. And what I've noticed over the years, and specifically I have noticed this in romantic relationships, is that it goes through a unique and similar journey, right? While every relationship is different and it's specific and it's unique, most romantic relationships tend to follow a similar journey. I know that this journey was actually true of my relationship with Jared. And in my observation, we go through about 4 stages. And depending on the longevity of the relationship, you could travel through these stages actually multiple different times. And so I want to walk you through these 4 different stages of relationships, okay? The first stage is a stage that I call, oh, wow. Oh, wow. Right? This stage, you find yourself thinking, this might be the one. This might be the one. And this stage is amazing, right? Attraction and chemistry are high. There are no problems in your life. There's no problems in the world. There's no problems with them. There's no problems with you. I mean, because you're not really paying attention to anything else that is going on, right? You have found the one, and nothing else matters. And this stage, it literally feels like you are just floating, right? You're just floating with balloons, right? It's all blessings, and the blessings are flowing over and over and over, and you are unaware. You're just unaware that maybe you or the other person has some baggage. Now, the oh wow stage, in my experience and what I have observed over the years is that the oh wow stage, it lasts about 6 minutes to 6 months, okay? Really depends on the people. But what fuels this stage of relationships is chemistry. It's wonderful until it's not. And if the relationship continues to move through the oh wow stage, eventually there comes a moment where the relationship moves to stage 2. And stage 2 I call the oh no stage. It's the oh no stage. And at this stage, you move from thinking this might be the one to something is really wrong with the one, right? Now, it's not like they have a ton of baggage at this stage, but you're starting to notice they might have a carry-on's worth of baggage, right? And the things that, were once so attractive about this person, you find yourself realizing like, they're kind of annoying, right? And you loved that they were carefree and adventurous. You loved that they were this like spur of the moment, up for anything kind of spirit. You just thought, oh, that's just so adorable. And now you want to send them to a time management correctional facility. And the thing is that in the oh no stage, we look over often and we're like, there's an exit ramp over there, and we start to weigh whether we're going to stay in or get off. And the thing is there doesn't have to be like a big and pronounced drama in the oh no stage, but those little annoyances that were always there before, they become noticeable. And it's at this point and this stage in the relationship where you decide, are we going to make a commitment? Am I going to stay on? Am I going to stay in this relationship? And it's in this phase that you decide if your oh wows are stronger than your oh no's. And in this stage, you start to see that the relationship, it's got some blessings to it, but you start to notice that there might be some baggage in the corner of your partner's room. So we've got the oh wow stage and we've got the oh no stage. And somewhere along the way, it's very likely for a committed relationship to then hit stage 3. And stage 3 is what I call the no way stage. And in stage 3, the relationship hits conflict. The relationship hits conflict and challenge. Challenge is the fuel of this relationship. You find yourself saying, like, there is no way that you are going to always win. You start thinking, this is not what I thought this was going to be. And many relationships, they park right here. In fact, many marriages, they live at this stage, just kind of rehashing the same fight over and over. And in the no way stage, this is where baggage really becomes evident. And it feels like that you are just kind of very aware that the baggage is stuck on the baggage carousel. And it just keeps circling and circling and circling and circling, and you can't unsee it. And it starts to show up in unresolved emotional issues. It starts to show up in unhealthy patterns. Maybe there's a lack of trust or painful past experiences or traumas that a person carries over from a previous relationship. Essentially, whatever is unresolved in our past, it shows up in our present in the no way stage. That's because we always bring the weight of unresolved past hurts into our new relationships. And this is true in my relationship with Jarrett. Jarrett and I have had lots of different seasons of this in our relationship. Lots of different times where we have circled this part, this season, this stage of a relationship. And most of the time, the baggage that we were dealing with has to do with unclear, unspoken, and even unconscious expectations. Because unspoken expectations always end up being unfair expectations. And our unspoken expectations, they just fueled our unique baggage. And for us, when it came to some of the baggage that we brought in, Jarrett's baggage was in a pattern of liking to avoid, liking to take less than his share of responsibility. And so there was a regular avoidance pattern. And mine was taking more than my share of responsibility because I like to control. And so most of our fights would come back to this kind of baggage that we both brought into the relationship. And in the no way stage, this is the stage where baggage, you decide, I'm going to either start to unpack this thing, and I'm going to look at what's inside, and we're going to start to work through this together, or it just becomes the clutter that clouds every part of the relationship. And what we like to do is we like to keep our baggage zipped up. We learn how to just keep it all piled in the closet. And all those things that you've packed up in your personal suitcase over the years, they start to come out in this stage. Because I'm not sure if you're aware of this truth, but wherever you go, there you are. Wherever you go, there you are. You can't check your baggage at the door of your relationships. It's impossible to leave behind baggage that has not been unpacked. Wherever you go, there you are. And the things in your suitcase and the things in the other person's suitcase start to clash in the no way stage. And it feels messy. And you know, the interesting thing about this stage is both of your suitcases are clashing with one another. And no one ever says, you know, I just want you to know. I just want you to know that, when I often criticize you, it's because it helps me feel better about myself. Back when I was in elementary school, I started to wonder if I was likable, because there were a few times when people didn't invite me to things and I didn't like it and I felt sad about it. So I realized that if I could make people laugh and poke fun at them, that I actually felt more powerful. And then people felt obligated to invite me to things. So basically, I just learned to criticize others and use my sarcasm to mask my insecurity. And it gave me a false sense of feeling power and belonging. No one says that in a fight. But these are the things we're actually fighting about. And whether it's criticism, control, defensiveness, withdrawal, anger, something else, all those things, they're just warning lights to indicate baggage is here. And the majority of relationships, what I have found is they either stay here or they end the relationship. And lots of times when people stay in the relationship, they're not really in the relationship. And sadly, this is how many people stay in a relationship without staying in love. And the thing about the no-way stage is that I actually believe it is ripe with the possibility for a wake-up. It is primed and prepped if both people are willing to do their work, if both people are willing to say, hey, guess what? I got some baggage. And some of it I know, and some of it I don't know, but what I do know is that there is no one else that I actually want to unpack it with than you. And this is how you know you can actually move to stage 4 of a relationship. Because stage 4 is called no other. No other. And this person you believe is actually here to help you be the only one that God created you to be. And the fuel in this stage is change. It's transformation. It's what we talk about here all the time. And you start to see this person really can be used by God to help bring out change in your life. And there's this deep gratitude for all of the ways that they hold up a mirror for you, the ways that they hold transformation for you. And in this stage, you really begin to see it isn't about another person completing you or satisfying you. It's about another person being an agent to bring out growth in you. And you start to see that all those ruptures, they can actually be repaired. Ruptures can be repaired in this kind of relationship. So here's what I want to tell you. We just repeat what we don't resolve. We just repeat what we don't resolve. But baggage can be healed. Because baggage is not your identity. Your baggage is not you. And when we start to repair these ruptures, repairs start to look like choosing self-awareness. Taking responsibility for your emotional work instead of blame and criticism. You start to own how you're contributing to the situation. Instead of defensiveness, you choose appreciation. Instead of entitlement and resentment, you seek to serve the other person. Instead of withdrawing, you step in to make the relationship all that it can be. And when you are willing to start unpacking your baggage, you stop reading 1 Corinthians 13 and you start practicing 1 Corinthians 13. And instead of saying, Love is patient. You start going, Jeanette is going to be patient. Tito is going to be patient. Whitney is kind. David is kind. Mike doesn't dishonor others. Christina is not self-seeking. You start to put your name in the blank. And you start to actually practice that love always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres, because love never fails. And this is what it looks like to unpack our baggage and practice love. And I want to tell you something, you're never going to get this perfect, because the only perfect person to ever get this perfect is Jesus. He gets it perfect all the time, because his love actually never fails, even when ours does. And the first step in a relationship is just bringing your baggage to Jesus. And I think it's so easy. It is so easy to believe that our lives are defined by what happens to us. That our lives are defined by this baggage. That all the content of the bags is our identity. But I am here to tell you, if you didn't get anything else from this message, if you go home today and you're like, I don't know, she had a bunch of balloons and a bunch of bags on the stage, I don't know what that woman was saying. But if you don't get anything else, I want you to hear me say, life is not about what happens to you. It's about how you respond to what happens to you and how you bring that to Jesus. How you respond to what Jesus did for you, because Jesus actually took our baggage. He took our baggage and he gave us his blessing. And if you're wondering what the gospel is, that's it. That's what the gospel is. This is what it looks like to be in a saving and a redeeming relationship with Jesus. You can bring all your baggage to him. And he can take the ashes and he can make it beautiful. He can turn baggage into blessings. And while there's often lots of work to be done, there is work to be done to heal our baggage. The first step is always to come to Jesus. And as I was praying through this talk over the last couple of weeks and just asking God, give me the right pictures and give me the right metaphors and show me who you are in Scripture and what it is that you do with all of the baggage in our lives. And God just reminded me that our God is a refining fire. For many of us, it feels like the things in the baggage, it feels sometimes like it's an out-of-control fire, and it is just burning up every one of our relationships and bringing so much destruction. But when we bring those things to God, his fire is a refining fire that burns away impurities, that burns away the old identity, that burns away the old pain, that burns away the old patterns, and we get to be found new in Jesus. And so if you are holding some baggage today, and you want to see God turn it into blessings, I just want to invite you to stand with me right now. We're going to move into a time of worship, into a time of surrender, into a time of asking God to cleanse us, to renew us, to create in us a clean heart and renew a steadfast spirit within us. And so, God, this is our prayer today. So many of us, we feel like we've allowed our baggage to be our identity, that it has defined us. And God, we want to thank you for Jesus, for his unfailing love, for his perfect love that casts out all of our impurities, casts out all of our brokenness, cleanses all that is painful, and restores us, and actually can turn baggage into blessings. And so, God, refine us. Would you be that refiner's fire in our life today? Cleanse us and make us new. Pray this in the name of Jesus. And all God's people said,